Welcome to today's video. In the next 9 minutes, I'll be taking you step by step through drawing a detailed and realistic fly. It may sound simple, but flies are actually some of the most interesting insects, especially those with compound eyes and glassy wings. We'll go from basic sketches to a drawing that's both accurate in shape and artistic in its own way. Get your paper pencil eraser, and if you like some crayons or watercolors to complete the drawing at the end of the video. Before we begin, take a few seconds to mentally observe the shape of a fly. The fly's body is small but has many detailed parts, especially the head, which is almost as large as the body. The fly's eyes are compound, giving the impression of two large spheres covering most of the head. The fly's body is divided into three parts: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen, with the thorax being slightly swollen where the wings and legs attach. When drawing, we do not necessarily have to follow the scientific proportions, but the important thing is to convey the spirit of this insect, agile, flexible, and has a very unique beauty when looked at closely. Now put down your pen and start sketching the head. Draw a circle or a slightly flattened oval. This will be the base for us to place the characteristic large eyes. No need to draw too dark, just light strokes for easy adjustment when needed. Then immediately sketch two large circles for the eyes. The two eyes should extend a little beyond the head circumference because the eyes of a fly take up almost the entire area of the head. You can let the two eyes touch in the middle, creating the characteristic feeling of compound eyes. When you finish these two large circles, add a few light grid lines representing the structure of the compound eyes, but do not make them too thick. Just a few suggestive lines are enough to make the viewer feel the detailed structure of the eyes. Right between the two eyes, draw a small mouth extending downwards. The fly's mouth isn't too prominent, so you'll just need a slight curve along with a few short lines on either side to suggest the antennae. At this point, the head is basically complete. Now move on to the thorax. The thorax is the wide, slightly bulging area where the wings and legs attach. Draw an oval slightly larger than the head, placing it just below the head and allowing the two parts to overlap slightly. Between the body and the head, you can add a few small lines to represent the joints between the two parts. On the thorax, draw a few horizontal curves to create a surface similar to the fine hairs that flies often have. These lines will help the thorax look more realistic and give it more depth. Next, draw the abdomen. This is the smaller, longer part of the thorax. The abdomen is an elongated oval, sometimes slightly pointed at the end. Lightly sketch a tapered shape and give the abdomen 3 or 4 small segments by adding segmented curves. Each abdominal segment can be lightly shaded to create contrast with the thorax. When connecting the abdomen to the thorax, you make the seam slightly narrower to create a feeling of natural structure. Now we come to the part that makes the drawing come alive: the wings. Fly wings are thin as glass, transparent, and have many small veins divided into many small boxes. To draw the wings, imagine two thin leaves extending backwards, starting from the two sides of the thorax. You draw two shapes like two rounded triangles with the front edge slightly curved, the back edge long and slightly tapered. For each wing, add a light outline along the length, creating the main bone of the wing. From this main bone, you draw small veins radiating out on both sides like slender branches. The veins do not need to be drawn too evenly because nature always has a certain improvisation. Just a few precise lines and some gentle auxiliary lines are enough to make the wings look very real and soft. Then we come to the legs. Flies have 6 legs and they are quite thin. Draw 3 legs on each side starting from the thorax. The front legs can point forward, the middle legs can point straight down, and the back legs can point backward. Each leg has 3 parts. The top is slightly larger, the middle is long and straight, and the bottom is small and slightly curved. At the bottom of the legs, you can add some small details like hooks to make the legs more realistic. When drawing the legs, use quick, decisive strokes to create flexibility as flies are fast and light-moving creatures. Once you have completed the basic shape, you start erasing the excess lines. This is when you refine the outline, sharpening the areas that need precision, such as the eyes, the edges of the wings, the abdominal segments, and the legs. Once everything is neat, you can start shading. For the eyes, you can use a 2B or 4B pencil to create darkness, but remember to leave a small area for a reflective highlight. This will help the eyes look more soulful and shiny. When applying eyeshadow, you can lightly dust on a layer of grainy eyeshadow to create a double eye look. Then you can add some background. A leaf, a wooden tabletop, or simply a shadow below is enough to make the painting stand out more. If you add shadows, determine the direction of the light and cast the shadow in the same direction to keep it real. The shadows of flies are usually small but clear because the fly's body is not very tall, but its legs are quite long. If you want to add color to the painting, you can use dark colors such as black, brown, green, or purple for the body. For the eyes, you can use dark red or orange-brown to create a prominent compound eye effect. For the wings, just a little light gray or clear blue at the edge. When painting, keep the color very thin so as not to cover the wing vein details. When you are done, take a moment to look at your work. You will see that although flies are familiar insects and sometimes considered a nuisance, when you look closely, they have extremely beautiful and delicate structures. Every little detail brings a sense of art and fun. Drawing flies not only helps you practice your observation skills, but also helps you realize the hidden beauty in the most ordinary things around you. Thank you for watching today's drawing tutorial video. Hope you learned a lot of new things and found creative inspiration in every stroke. If you like this content, don't forget to follow to see more tutorial videos. Wish you a very inspiring day, and see you in the next videos. Welcome to today's video. In the next 9 minutes, I will accompany you to draw a picture of a goldfish that is soft, vibrant, and full of life. Goldfish are graceful creatures, especially with thin tails and fins like veils, so when drawing, we need to pay attention to the feeling of movement and lightness in each stroke. Prepare a pencil eraser drawing paper, and if you want, you can prepare some watercolors or colored pencils to complete the picture after sketching. Before you start, imagine in your mind a goldfish swimming slowly in the water. The body of a goldfish is quite round, with big eyes, a short snout, and especially the tail is often stretched into many thin layers. When drawing, the most important thing is to keep that softness and feeling of grace because goldfish look best in the delicate movements. Now gently put down the pencil and start with the body. First sketch a round oval that is slightly to the left or right depending on the swimming style you want. This will be the main body of the fish. Keep the strokes light so that it is easy to edit in the next steps. Then from the top of the oval sketch, a small curve to make the head slightly protrude. Goldfish have quite small heads compared to their bodies, but have round, soft lines, so you should keep all the angles smooth. Once you have the head and body, move on to drawing the eyes. Goldfish eyes are usually large and slightly convex. Just draw a small circle above the head, aligning it to match the swimming direction you have chosen. Inside the eye, add a small circle as the pupil and leave a white dot to create a reflection. This is what makes the fish look more lively and soulful. If you want, you can add a light outline around the eyes to create the feeling of floating on the head. Next is the mouth. The mouth of a goldfish is small and slightly rounded like a soft O. You only need to draw a small curve at the front of the head. Don't make it too bold, as this is just an idea. Once the drawing is colored, the mouth will naturally blend in with the overall picture. Now go back to the body and prepare to draw the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin of a goldfish is located on the backbone starting from the middle of the body and extending to near the end. Use a soft curve to form the main fin, then draw short, straight lines from the edge of the fin to the body to suggest a ribbed structure. These lines don't need to be too even, but keep them thin to create a light cloth-like feel. Once you have the dorsal fin, move on to the ventral fins. The two small fins located at the bottom of the body near the head are soft triangles and slightly curved down. Draw these fins slightly staggered to create the impression that the fish is swimming sideways. Each fin should also have thin ribbed lines to keep it subtle. You can add pectoral fins right below the head with small curves pointing forward, making the fish look more dynamic. The most important part of a goldfish is the tail. This is where you can freely create to make the picture soft, airy, and beautiful. From the end of the body, sketch out 2 or 3 large tail branches using wide, comfortable curves. These tail branches should spread out like silk ribbons underwater. When drawing the outline, do not make the lines too hard, but let them wavy slightly as if they were moving. Then from each tail branch, you draw many small, thin lines like long silk threads. These lines create a characteristic soft effect, making the goldfish's tail attractive. When the overall shape is completed, go back and refine the outline. Use an eraser to erase the excess sketches and darken the main lines. At this time, check the proportions of the head, body, and tail. If you feel the tail is not soft enough, lengthen it or make the curves more gentle. One of the secrets to drawing a beautiful goldfish is the smoothness of the curves. Then we move on to shading with a pencil. Let's start with the head and body. Goldfish have shiny scales, so you should use light and dark strokes to create the effect. On the belly, you just need to shade very lightly to keep the brightness. On the back, you can shade darker to create depth. If you want to simulate fish scales, you can add a few small intersecting curves, but don't be too detailed because this can lose the softness of the overall. When shading the fins and tail, reduce the pressure on your hand. Just suggest a light shadow to keep the transparency. The areas near the base of the tail or the base of the fin can be shaded darker because they are usually darker. When dragging the pencil, follow the grain of the fins and tail to create a sense of movement. If you rub it gently with your finger or soft paper, you will get a nice translucent effect, making the fins and tail look like they are gently undulating underwater. If you want to add some context, you can paint some bubbles, some soft seaweed, or just a blurred background. But remember that the goldfish is the main character, so the extra details should be kept to a minimum. A few lines that suggest flowing water or light shining through the water will be enough to bring the scene to life. Once the pencil drawing is complete, if you want to color it, it's time to let the goldfish shine. You can use watercolors or colored pencils depending on your preference. Goldfish are usually orange, yellow, orange, red, or white with a yellow tint. Start with a light thin layer of color to create a base, then gradually increase the intensity in the areas you want to highlight. The body can change from a bright yellow to a deep orange towards the tail. When coloring the fins and tail, keep them transparent by applying very thin layers of color so that the ribs are still visible. If you are using watercolors, keep the brush very light, almost gliding across the paper to create a transparent effect. When everything is finished, take a few seconds to look at your work. You will find that goldfish are very fun to draw not only because of their vibrant colors, but also because of their characteristic soft movements. Drawing goldfish will help you practice your skills in curves, grace, and gentle control of your strokes. Whether your painting is perfect or not, the important thing is that you have gone through a pleasant and enjoyable creative process. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I hope you continue to find joy in painting, especially when exploring the shimmering beauty of the underwater world. See you in the next drawing tutorial videos.